Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be working on the 99 Blazer. We affectionately call this rig the Green Meanie. The Green Meanie is, mostly there. It's got some rust, it's got some other things. I think the air conditioner will actually work. It starts, it runs, it drives, it shifts. We just bought this thing for $460 and dragged it home not too long ago. One of the things, I think the air conditioner is going to work, but I've got to get to the blower motor, and all of this crap around in here has just absolutely disintegrated. It's basically like an anti-sweat thing, and it's all trash. So rather than, and I'm sure it's probably full of a rat nest. So rather than try to fight and faunch to get the blower motor out of it, which I know you can do that without taking off the fender, but we're going to take the fender off. Mainly because I want to at least get the inner fenders out of this, get the tires back on it, and roll it outside and get up underneath it here with the pressure washer and pressure wash the living thunder out of the front end of this thing. Because before too long, I'm going to take and rebuild the front end in this. I'm shopping around for prices right now. When O'Reilly's, I've got a wish list put together. When O'Reilly's opens back up Monday morning, I'll go talk to my buddy up there, hand him my list of parts, and he'll tell me how much it'll be. And I'm hoping to get all this local at my local O'Reilly rather than send off to Rock Auto, because I'd rather deal with my local O'Reilly's. So, as you can see, I've got the air cleaner assembly off of it. The inner fender is off on the driver's side already. I took it off earlier this afternoon. The main brake line going to the back is rotted. I've got to replace it, and I looked a couple of weeks ago and decided it was 3/16. Well, I looked today and it's 1/4 inch, so I got to order some. I don't have enough 1/4 inch brake line to do it. I've got some on order. It'll be here in a couple of days. So I have the grill out of the front of it. That's not hard. This is a 99. Let's see, about 98, maybe 98 or 99 is when they started this. There are no screws that hold this front end, the front grill in. It just snaps in with some of the Snap-O-Matic clips. So I've already pulled the grill out of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take off the bumper. Okay. On this one, it's got, looks like about 14 or 16 millimeter, 15 probably, bolts that go, there's 2 up here, 2 back here, and then there's a bracket underneath that holds the bumper on. So there's 6, 8, 10 bolts that hold the bumper on, and that's it. So I'm going to take the bumper off, we'll get it out of the way, and then we'll start in here with battery and overflow can and all of that stuff. So, with all that being said, y'all give me a big fat thumbs up. Go down to the comment section, tell me how I'm doing everything wrong. All of that helps grow my channel. I don't get paid a dime for doing these videos. It doesn't really cost me much to make them. I know they're poorly edited, and I know there's a lot of background noise because I've got my air conditioner going. It's hotter than the devil outside. So, give me a big fat thumbs up. Tell me how wrong I'm doing everything. We'll go from there. Thanks, man. Okay, so the bumper's off. Now, next thing I want to do is take the hood off because I'm tired of hitting the head on it, and it's got to come off anyway. So this is this little piece here off the other side. Now these have got one little bolt in them, screw actually. Takes about a 7 millimeter socket. And it's got a Brake-O-Matic clip in it. Now you got to get your finger, there's a little notch right here, you got to kind of get your finger underneath of there and then back here And those will, if you wiggle just right, those will come up out of there without breaking. And I didn't break that one. I had to get a hold of it out here on the end, but it did come up out of there without breaking. So there's them. Now we've got access to our hood bolts, which 13mm socket, one over here and one over yonder. So next we'll take the hood off of it. And you can notice the beautiful factory paint job that's still left on it. This is a pretty easy color to replicate. I've already redone, I put a different tailgate on it. Local automotive paint shop, perfect color match. And we'll talk more about that later on down the road. Okay, I'm going to pull the battery out of this. Now, if y'all didn't know, on the Generous Motors side post batteries, the actual thread in there is a 3/8 standard old regular plain Jane 3/8 thread. Now, I'm the guy that always stops and helps the people that are broke down on the side of the road and need a jump. And it's a whole heck of a lot easier to get your jumper cables on that than it is on them stupid side post battery cables, terminals. So this is how I do them. It's just a bolt and a nut. You run the bolt in finger tight and you just jam the nut. Of course, you paint the whole thing with grease before you do it. But that's how I do it. That's not the right way or the wrong way, it's my way. So I'll get the battery out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so now we're down to the engine management confuser. There are 3 bolts, takes a 10mm socket, one here, one over yonder, and one back here. And you got to be awful careful when you do this, because them bolts are just threadlets down into this here plastic. It sucks, but that's the way that Generous Motors does it, so we got to live with it. So now your confuser is loose, so always use the appropriate tool. Take your blowgun and blow all the mouse leavings and all the other filth and corruption out around here, and then use the appropriate tool to break these connectors. Technically, you're supposed to remove this blue plastic thing, and then you can squeeze and pop them off, but I break more connectors doing them the right way. And don't worry about getting these mixed up. Black, black, white, white, red, red, blue, blue. So anyway, you get the picture. I'm going to get this off of here, and then we'll get the burp tank out of it, and we'll get the battery tray out of it. That's all pretty straightforward. 10mm socket, 13mm socket, not a whole lot to it. Okay, so I've got the battery tray out of it. No big surprises there. It was a ball of shit. Nothing spectacular. 4-wheel drive actuator pot looks pretty good. Next thing to do, we've got a tooter over here. Not all of them had a toot on both sides. This one does, so we're going to unplug the tooter. And yep, there's a harness right here that you need to break that clip off of. And now we can go underneath and start unbolting everything from underneath. First thing I'm going to hit is the 4-wheel drive actuator, and I've got to reach around from underneath with the gun and unscrew them while I hold the actuator, and we'll just kind of lay it over out of the way. And once we get it kind of moved back, then we'll examine the vacuum line that's going to it, because it's usually rotten. People like to replace up here, but they don't get down underneath and replace that vacuum line. But we're going to look at that. You may not do it on camera, just look at that. If you're this deep, check that vacuum line. Might save your life someday. So that's about it. I'm going to cut the camera, go underneath, and I'll start on the inner fender. Okay, so here's the inner fender. Upside down, this is the passenger side inner fender. Rather than try to get the camera upside down to look up in there, we'll just go like this. Okay, along the front you've got 3 bolts, boom, 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 that come up from the bottom. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 between the inner fender and the outer fender. Of course, you got your 2 bolts to hold on your 4-wheel drive actuator. And then you've got one that goes straight up into a mount that comes off of the firewall. And then you got another one that goes in towards the exhaust manifold right here on another mount that comes up off the firewall. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 bolts to take that off. That seems kind of unlucky. Well, one of them had to be flamed, so that makes it 12. It wasn't unlucky. So now we'll start taking the fender off. Alright, same thing for the fender. Okay, your antenna wire plug is usually right in front of the blower motor. Then you've got a bolt through the bracket right here. Got that bolt goes through from the behind the door. I'll take it back. That's for the inner fender. Bolt down here on the bottom. You got 2 bolts here and here that are there and there. You got to get the door open about halfway. Get those 2 out. You got 2 bolts here, a bolt down from the top, a bolt in from the front, and a bolt in from the side. That's it. Fender's off. So now we've got access to do what we started off doing. Good night. I just want you to look at all that filth that's come out of that thing. I haven't swept the floor yet. We get done, we'll figure out just exactly how much crap came falling out of this truck. Okay, so I got the screws out of here. I haven't looked yet. I thought we would do an unveiling. Everybody likes YouTube unveiling shows. So let's see what lives in here. Oh, wow. That's shockingly clean. There's a little bit of rat nest. Wow, that looks good. Well, I'm gonna go get the vacuum cleaner. Get that vacuumed out of there. That don't look too bad at all. A lot better than I was expecting. Alright then, let's take a look at the tools that I used on this little symphony of destruction. Okay, to take the bumper bolts loose, 15mm 1/2" drive socket. 13mm 1/2" drive socket for inner fender bolts that were really good and stuck. And of course a little extension to get here and there. 1/2" impact. 3/8 drive 13mm socket. And 3/8 little cheap impact. Didn't use that on this. 10mm 3/8 drive extension. 3/8 rushat. 1/4" drive 13mm. I did have to flame off a couple of fender bolts. When I do that, I just kind of melt the head of the bolt off with the torch. I don't get real stupid about blowing on them, but I do melt the heads off, leave the washer, and then you just take your chisel and get up underneath the washer and give her a little lick, and the washer will just pop right off. That's how I do them. So chisel and a thumb smasher, 9/16 wrench, that's for the battery bolts, the way that I do them. 13mm end wrench, that was for the hood bolts. Let's see, 7 hvac socket, that is for the little screws that hold down the that little valance piece that covers up the hood bolts. 1/4 inch impact, 1/4 by hex socket adapter. And the best socket I've found to take the little screws that hold the blower motor in is a 7/32, and I know that that is a metric screw head, but 7/32 is the best one that I've got that fits it. Of course, you need a pry bar, blowgun, need some end nippers. Those are really handy for pulling body rivets and cutting rivets and stuff. You need a pair of Democrat pliers, and then just a pair of regular old lineman pliers. And then everybody's favorite goop, burnt transmission fluid and turpentine. World's best peanut trading oil there is. And, you know, that's stuff you got laying around. I don't like WD-40. This works just as good. And I've always got burnt transmission fluid. And here's kind of a free tip. I generally, or at least I try to, sort my bolts out and stick them in a can, and then I'll put a note in there like this is driver's inner and outer fender, and then put that, you know, I'll have a can of bolts for this sub-assembly, can for that sub-assembly, can for this sub-assembly, and then you put your bolts with your sub-assembly, and that way when you lose it, you lose absolutely everything. So that's all I got for now. We've got her all apart. We'll work on it later, kind of as time allows, and so on and so forth. Give me a big fat thumbs up. Tell me everything that I'm doing wrong. And in the meanwhile, y'all drive safe. Watch for deer.